In this video, I'm going to teach you about the 13 executive functions assessment, which is linked below here, and why I created this assessment for you parents, teachers, and therapists, and why I created it the way I did, because this is very different than anything you're going to find on the internet, and hopefully this will really help you. My name is Seth Perler. I'm an executive function coach, speaker. I wear a lot of hats in the executive function world, and I work with very complicated students who are usually failing in middle school, high school, college, usually. And we're trying to figure out, how do we help somebody with executive function challenges? What the heck does that mean? Well, in this document, which is 6 pages long, it's very detailed. It will really help you get a clear picture, and I'm going to show you exactly how I designed it and why I designed it the way I did. But first, let's start off with what is executive function. Right here, this red part of the brain, this is called the PFC, the prefrontal cortex, the frontal lobe. This front part of the brain, the front part of your brain, which is right behind your forehead here, this is where we believe executive function takes place. And this part of the brain helps us to get important things done. And what I did with this resource is I created this to help you understand the different aspects of executive function, because there are many different aspects. And I am going to go ahead and show you this resource here and explain how it works. I am also going to show you a couple of other things that I created. I recently created an executive function one-pager, an executive function first aid kit, a how to get buy-in resource, because these are some of the most common problems that people have when they are trying to help a student who struggles with executive function. So essentially, I highlighted some areas on here, and I'm going to tell you about this. But the first thing that I want to tell you about, let's go back to that diagram of the brain. The first thing that I want to tell you is that when it comes to the prefrontal cortex of the brain, and when it comes to how different experts define executive function differently, that's a problem. So you'll hear all these different experts define executive function differently and talk about the aspects differently. So some experts will say there are 3 executive functions, or 5, or 8, or 10. So there's not agreement. But the reason that I created 13 on here, the reason that I put those 13 is because I have been in the trenches working with families and working with students for years around this stuff. And I put these in language that people use commonly to describe the challenges. So let me run through how this works. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, obviously, but I'm just going to give you a quick rundown so that you can go ahead and print this off and get started using it. So what I did here, again, there are about 6 pages here, and on right here, you're going to see this is the description for parent, teachers, and therapists, but you can actually use this with certain students depending on if you feel it's appropriate. But there are certain students who can self-assess with this. So the way I articulated it, hopefully, definitely for a lot of high school students, you might want to use this. But either way, I made this for parents, teachers, and therapists, and it's a printable PDF. And I really wanted to highlight that these are skills. Executive function skills is not a matter of will. It's not that your child or the student just needs to try hard enough and motivate themselves. There's so much misunderstanding on that, so I really wanted to highlight that right in the beginning here. So I talk about that. These are skills that our brains use, that our brain can develop. We can have better skills. I also mention here the word overlap. So as you look through these, there's a lot of overlap. That is because these skills work together in conjunction with each other. And it really is hard to define executive function. This is not a simple concept. It's relatively complicated, but I did make this as simple as humanly possible on here. As you go through this, you may want to highlight things that resonate, and you may want to also check off problem areas. So you can add a check mark here or what have you, and that will help you to, what I said is, strategize solutions more easily. So as you look through this, this will help you to strategize solutions. Rather than using the solutions that we typically use, which often do not work, this will really help you get to the heart of what will work. After this, I have a strengths assessment here, and I will talk about that in just a moment. And then this very last section here, which is special, and I'll tell you why I did that section the way I did. First thing I'm going to do here is show you this document. This is an example where I highlighted it. You can just see right here where I checked off some of the items, and here where I highlighted a few of the words. So for example, if you check off that with the first one is planning skills, and maybe the first one says schoolwork, that there is a lot of late work, incomplete assignments, zeros, missing work, misses deadlines. You might check that off if that resonates with you. Here, where I'm talking about organizational skills, I said skills for knowing how to create organizational systems to keep track of things. I highlighted keep track of things because maybe the student really struggles with keeping track of things, and that resonates with you. I highlighted the word unprepared right here because maybe the student's unprepared all the time, and that's something that really resonates with you. Either way, you can use this however you want. I just wanted to show you how I intended it to be used, just to give you an idea, jumping off point. Now, what I do here is I list 13 executive function skills, and then in this column, I discuss what the problem looks like. So here, for example, we have planning, organization, and then prioritization. Again, different experts use different terms. Some might say 3, 5, 8, 10. Again, I don't really care what anybody else does. There are brilliant people in this field. You should definitely look at what other experts say. Don't just take what I say and think that this is, the only way. It's certainly not. I just do things the way I do them because these are the things that I hear all the time, and I try to make it relatable and easy to understand because a lot of the definitions out there are very clinical and very difficult to understand. So what I do here with the skill is I talk about number one, for example, planning skills, and I define it in my own words, a massive set of time management and or project/task management skills that help us to estimate a realistic perception of the time, energy, and steps necessary to execute or accomplish a goal or a task. This includes planning a day, using a calendar, a planner, an agenda, planning long-term things, scheduling, planning one's essays, etc. So I really, really, really carefully articulate it. And you can soak these definitions in more later, but you will see that every word I chose, I spent weeks editing this. Every word I chose is very particular to really help you get to the core of what's going on here. And then I discuss what the problem looks like. For example, schoolwork. If they struggle with planning, you might see that if they struggle with planning and planners, well, they might have a lot of late work, incomplete, zeros, missing work, missing deadlines. That is in part a planning issue. They may be unaware of upcoming responsibilities or events. That is a planning issue. They may avoid planners or planning or feel like it's a burden, and they say things like, I don't need a planner, I hate planners. Or if there are planning skills, executive function planning skills are lacking, those skills, well, they're going to struggle with procrastination, doing things last minute, saying things like, and then if they procrastinate a lot, these kids will often say things like, I don't like planning, planners don't work for me. I don't need to write it down, I'll remember it, or the teacher has it online. They may be unproductive. They may have time blindness. They may have trouble with planning their papers, and their writing goes all over the place. So these are just some things that are commonly associated with planning skills that I have heard a million times over. So I wanted to make this really, really clear and easy for you to be able to look at these things and strategize solutions. And you can, for some of you, you'll want to share this with the student, and some of you will just want to use this for your own information. You can use this for multiple students in a classroom, or if you're a parent, you can use it for your children. You can check out yourself and make it relatable to yourself. But either way, I really articulated every single thing that I could think of in the simplest way I could think of, but also not to dismiss the complexity of the issue, because these are complex. So I'm not going to go through all of these with you. Obviously, I'm not going to read all these. You can do that yourself because it's right here. But I will mention we have the 13 that I cite are planning, organization, prioritization, how we prioritize things, focus, attention, and concentration, inhibitory skills, which has a lot to do with holding back, resisting distractions, not being impulsive. Task initiation just means getting started. Follow through, task persistence, being able to follow through and complete things. Transitioning or pivoting. Working memory, a type of short-term memory that the brain uses. I mentioned emotional regulation skills. Emotional regulation. Did you know executive function has a lot to do with emotional regulation? Huge topic, so I defined that for you. Metacognitive skills is how we reflect, how we look back, how we learn from our mistakes or our wins. Skills to move through resistance. Resistance is the biggest problem that we have when it comes to executive function. We resist, we procrastinate, we have excuses, we're resistant to doing the things that would help. So that is one that I listed. And then 13, I listed is self-care skills. Okay, sleep, rest, exercise, nutrition, things like that. These things may not be executive function skills, but they take a lot of executive function and they help and they enhance our executive function, or they can make it worse if we're not sleeping right or eating right or getting enough movement and living a sedentary lifestyle and things like that. So then what I did after I go through all of these is I say, okay, now what? Well, what do you do about it? So first of all, you can follow my work, and I have a link here. You can follow the work of others, and then you can check out my courses and workshops, and you can build upon strengths. Now, this is very important because the 13 executive functions are really going to be talking a lot about challenges and struggles. And look, if you're a parent or teacher or therapist, we know that if you want to help these kiddos, we have to really honor, understand, value, and develop and build upon these kids' strengths. These kids are amazing human beings with incredible strengths, but oftentimes when kids have executive function challenges, their strengths are often not noticed in conventional schooling. Even private schools, even charter schools, even homeschooling, a lot of times these amazing strengths are not noticed or not built upon, or they can be overshadowed by the challenges. So we have to really take a look at them. And I put in here some of the most important questions I ever use when I'm working with families and looking at strengths. Now, I've had some parents go through this assessment already, and they have commented that going through that part of it in particular with their child has been very powerful. They've had amazing experiences with that. So I just got to tell you, if you're going to do the first part of it, please do this part of it too. It's really necessary, and you're really going to build the connection with your child. Then finally, I have the very last part here. And what I said here is I really want you, the parent or the teacher, to consider how to creatively use the child's strengths to address some of the challenges. And I give you a lot of space to brainstorm here. So I ended this resource by saying, look, let's look at the strengths that they have. You've just written a bunch about them above. Let's creatively think about how can we use those to address the challenges. So this is something that I do in my work all the time, and that's very powerful and very helpful. And I hope that you are able to come up with some good ideas because it matters and it works. So again, my name is Seth Perler with SethPerler.com. Here we go. We have this. Go ahead and print this off. If you have, you can print in black and white or color, doesn't matter. And you just go ahead and you can start checking through these and highlighting the things that stand out to you. This should give you a very clear picture. Go ahead and look at the strengths. This should really be powerful for you to go through that strength area, do that last area. And I'm definitely open to feedback if you want to hit me up and email me and let me know what you think of this. Either way, my name is Seth Perler. Please check out SethPerler.com. If you like my work, I put my heart and soul into my work. This is my passion. This is my life's purpose. Please share my work, my YouTube channel, my website, my resources. Please share this stuff with other people who might be helped. Help me get my word out to more people. Go ahead and you can give this a thumbs up. You can give it a like, whatever the heck the things are. And you can leave a comment below. And what I'm interested in your comments here, I would love to hear in the comments, what strengths really stand out to you? What strengths do you notice that we often don't notice? What strengths do you see in kids that often aren't measured by schools and that are often overshadowed by the challenges? And the other thing I'd like to know is, as you're reading through the challenges and the way that I articulated the executive functions, how might you articulate some of the executive functions differently? Do you have any wisdom to add to it? Help us, help the community here to learn from some of your experience in those two ways, or anything else you want to comment would be fantastic. Again, my name is Seth Perler at SethPerler.com on YouTube. And I think that's about it. My brain is a bit fried from making this video. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I hope your day is filled with peace of mind and joy. But most of all, I hope that you have real connection with the kiddos that you care about. Be well. Take care.